recording. Hello, welcome to the Age of Sigmar Stats Centre. This is a show where every Monday, me and the Twitch chat, a group of plucky individuals, my friends even, some may say, my pals from across the world, we discuss the Age of Sigmar lists that have done well at the tournaments at the weekend. As you can, and I'll go through this in the rest of the video. You'll see. Those tournament results also go into our stats, which you can find on the honest-wargamer.com, run by Ziggy and Rob, and they will give you the most up-to-date stats about what's happening with armies and faction performances and drop rates and a bunch of really interesting stuff, which I'm sure 40k would love to have. We are now going to look at some of the lists from the different events. I've actually been away for 2 weeks. I've been in Canada doing coverage of a 40k tournament. So sometimes I do go to other countries to do live coverage of events. You can find all those streams on the T-Sports Network, YouTube, Twitch. And there we go. I'm Rob, also. I said that. Who knows? Who cares? Who cares? Yes. Right, okay, so we're going to look at events from around the world, and the first one we are going to be looking at is, now, I did have some criticisms, a couple of new people to the show on YouTube were giving me sass because you couldn't see this big enough, okay? There's no way on the green and pleasant earth, well, not for long, of this earth, that I will be copy and pasting these into any sort of like graphic format, because even going through them will take me probably 4 to 5 hours today with the Twitch chat, because we kind of deep dive the rules and stuff, which is really fun. And so instead, I'm obviously using BCP or Tabletop TO, depending on the event that's covered, or Exon, or whatever the other stuff is called, or Pumpun. Shout out to Pumpun. And so, there you go. I made it a bit bigger. And if you can't see it, all the links are in the show notes below, so you can click the links and look at them yourselves. And you can say to yourself, but I can't look at the lists because I haven't paid my subscription to PCP. At which I'll say, well, then that's your fault. There we go. That makes it easy. Ask one of your friends to screen cap. Easy, easy. Can't you? Right, okay, so shout out to Admiral Willis in the chat, who I think went 4-1 at the weekend in a doubles event. Doesn't matter, because doubles are just for fun, but like, my love to him, he's great. Okay, so first one we're going to look at is in Western America. That's what WA means, at Pulyapup. And this is presented by Victoria's Secret. This is the Emerald City Open to the Electric Boogaloo. Of course, it's actually tradition at this stage for all of them, the Boogaloo. It's some pretty interesting stuff. Some pretty interesting stuff happened. You had Jeremy Vessier go 5-0 with the Daughters of Khaine list, and Robbie Bear Steinberg go 5-0 with his Sons of Behemat Breaker Tribe list. We're going to look at those lists first. Now, there's some really cool stuff about Jeremy's list. Normally, I, being someone who reads lists pretty much every single week for Age of Sigmar, and a lot of them to boot, I think there's probably a few people that read more than me. Maybe Warhammer Rob, which is Rob to me. So Rob Hull, shout out to him. Okay. But like normally when I read Daughters of Khaine, I'm like, breath in the bow snakes. But Jeremy's done something way cooler, and is just really showing the power and the potency of combat Daughters of Khaine. So we've got Hagnar, which just adds +1 to your Blood Rights table, which is a special table you get when you play Daughters of Khaine. Daughters of Khaine, traditionally, the reason everyone played Marathi and the Bow Snakes, because 15 Bow Snakes are pretty efficient for their shooting output anyway, and Marathi, who's an unkillable support piece, and also a great fighting unit itself, will be able to make you shoot twice. Probably at least for 2 turns, maybe for 3 turns, which is great. Now, there's a great write-up on the honest-wargamer.com written by Jeffrey Mazura. So we do have lists, and you're encouraged to write your own lists on the honest-wargamer.com. Write a little guide for yourself, and then you can share them. And if you write good ones, then I'll make them list of the week. But as you can see, very much riffing off that idea, Jeremy, who's already gone 5-0 this season with Carriage and Overlords, and might have got another 5-0 as well. He might be on 3 5-0s already, I think. Yeah, but incredibly good performance from Jeremy. Taking a Melissa Iron Scale, he's taking a Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood. Now that's got Curse. The Cauldron of Blood, obviously, also really good for doing prayers like Curse, or the Heart. It's not called the Heart King, is it? It's called Heart of Fury. So this here, which is an invocation, so an endless spell, really. But you can't get rid of it like an endless spell, which is a real problem. And because of that, that means that you're basically -1 damage to a minimum of 1 in an aura, and that's going to massively affect your ability to punch through the army, which is kind of fragile in a lot of ways. You're getting +1 save from the Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood because it gives an aura, which is really going to benefit this unit of Witch Elves. And this unit of Witch Elves is really, really interesting. It's 345 points, which is super cheap. They've got 3 attacks each, which means they're going to have 90 attacks. But because they're Galician veterans, which means they're battle line, under 5 wounds, and they aren't mounted, that means they get to benefit from a special other rule, which means they get to fight within half an inch of a unit that's within a model that's within half an inch. So they effectively get to fight from 3 ranks as opposed to 2 ranks, or maybe it's just 2 ranks. I'm not sure. Depends how you lay it out. But either way, you might be able to get all 90 attacks from this unit in. And the way that this go Red Blacks! Shout out to my friend Darren in the chat, by the way. The High Gladiatrix. I'm just an Ottawa, an Ottawan Canadian Football League fan now. The High Gladiatrix, you can see, has got a special ability, an aura, where a unit of either Witch Elves or Sisters of Slaughter change their wound characteristic from a 4+ to a 3+. So instead of adding +1 to wound, it's changed the characteristic, which is really good when you see that the Witch Elves have got sacrificial knives, sacrificial knives mean they get an extra attack. But they also have an ability on their War Scroll, which gives them +1 to wound. So that means they immediately go from 3s and 4s to 3s and 2s. And then with a +1 to hit, it's 2s and 2s. So you're going to have 90 attacks, 2s and 2s. Okay, with Rend 1, because the High Gladiatrix also gives you +1 Rend. So that's pretty amazing. What also happens, which is really cool, is you've got Curse, which is a spell within 12 inches. You pick a unit on a 4-up, they're cursed, which means every 60 hit is going to cause an immortal wound, meaning those 30 Witch Elves potentially can do 15 mortal wounds into a unit. He's got 2 units of 10 Sisters of Slaughter, which kind of screens. They screen. I don't really know how they block stuff up. They're like a blocker. They're a front linesman for the Red Blacks and a Canadian football team. That's what they are. They just block and they defend, and I don't really know how else to describe it. They're just stuff that's in the way. It might be 9 inches. Thank you. Curse is actually 9 inches. Thanks to the chat for helping me out there. Curse is 9. Apologies. And then there's 2 units of Blood Sisters, which in of themselves are quite fighty units themselves, right? 10 Blood Sisters are pretty cheap at 280 points. And if you look, none of the units go over 400 points, which I think is quite interesting, because when you've got like these big punchy units that really want to deliver the kill blow, then he can lose 10 Blood Sisters and still have another 10 Blood Sisters. He's got 3 what I would call like important units here. In the Blood Sisters and the Witch Elf, so kind of hammer units that are going to do the damage. In addition, the Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood, pretty fighty. Not quite as good as the other 3 units I mentioned, but still not bad for a support piece. You've got 2 units of Canary Heart Renders, which are great for grabbing objectives, and in addition, have access to battle tactics, which, of course, should be banned from all events. Book battle tactics should be banned, as should book secondaries. But they would probably still take 2 units of 5 Heart Renders, because why wouldn't you? 95 points, the ability to deep strike, grab an objective is really fun. What I really like about what Jeremy's also done with his army as well is he's put his 2 units of 10 Blood Sisters in Expert Conquerors. This means they're going to count as 3 for each model in the unit. So a unit of 10 is going to count as 30 for the purposes of holding an objective. What I love about that is that you now are really torn about where you're going to try and apply your power, because you know the Witch Elves are the super scary unit in the unit, a super scary unit in the army, but the other ones are going to hold objectives super well, right? Really well. So I like that, because now you're confused. Basically, hail real Polygeek. Thanks for resubscribing. Thanks for being such a wholesome maverick, Rob. Oh, my pleasure. Anyway, great list, works super well. I'm going to get in touch with Jeremy, see if he'll do a write-up for me, because this is just great. But there is a Daughters of Khaine list using the High Gladiatrix already available on honest-wargamer.com, so you can check it out. Now, also in second place, but also in a 5-0 bracket, shout out to him, Robbie Bear Steinberg was running a Gargants list. Now, me and Tom Guan, when we were doing Summer Slaughter a few weeks ago, we talked about the fact that we think that actually Gargants are going to be pretty good in this. And they had a big fall off in Age of Sigmar 3 at the start. At one point, they had nearly a 70% win rate, which was pretty crazy, with an 80% positive win rate potential. So their ability to just win was around 80%, which was nuts, especially when their meta rep was 10%. They had a massive fall off after Christmas, earlier on in the year. And so, but with this edition, I think we're going to start to see the rise. With a new book on the horizon as well, I wouldn't be surprised to see lots of guns on the tabletop, and they're kind of the ultimate DPS check army. And what we mean by DPS check army is an army that it just basically says to you, can you kill all this stuff? I guess that's often been described as a horde army, but this does the same thing without there being lots of models, basically. So 2 Gatebreakers, sorry, 3 Gatebreakers, 2 Man Crushers, and the Horrorgas spell in Bosses of the Stomp. What I really like, the Enchanted Portcullis is on 1, with the Gatebreaker giving it a 6-up ward, and the Arcane Tome, again, all generic artifacts should be banned, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Has got Flaming Weapons, which means I think it takes the Gatebreaker weapon up to damage 4, because it's a spell that you cast on a 4, I think, and then it adds +1 damage to one of your melee weapons, and you're obviously going to do that on your big flail. It means they damage 4. In mind, so it's really, really powerful. But what I really like is he's taken the Horrorgas, which is is it second or third favorite endless spell currently. Like in the meta, I think it's probably one of the best endless spells in the game right now. And this is really nice because Horrorgas is, depending on which publication you read, because in the app, and this is something to clarify with your TO, in the app it says wholly within 12 inches, but in your GHB it says within 12 inches. So the smart play is to always play wholly within 12 inches, but there is a difference between the two. Oh, they fixed it. Nice. Where did they fix it? It's within now. All right, thank you very much. Apparently they fixed it, and there's an FAQ, so now it's within. Excellent. We don't need to go through that. So every unit wholly within 12 inches of the Horrorgast, it cannot use the Inspiring Presence command ability. And in addition, if anything runs away, and make them run away, and an extra D3 models run away. So it's actually really good and doesn't affect the single model Gargant army at all. So I like that. I think that's really fun. Anyway, that's all the 5-0 list. Love that. And congratulations to all those players. Hello. Okay, looking at the 4-1 bracket. He had Matt Beasley with the Disciples Tzeentch list. He had Kairos. He had the Zangor Shaman, and I think he had the Magister on disc as well. He had some basic Carrick Acolytes. He had a unit of Screamers. This is all in Host Arcanum, and then 6 Zangor Enlightened on discs of Tzeentch. Again, got to just talk about the fact that those Destiny dice plus pre-game moves in Host Arcanum is going to give those Zangor Enlightened on discs of Tzeentch an incredible charge range. Is absolutely crazy. They're going to be going 20 inches base with the pre-game move and their movement, and then obviously they can Destiny Dice the charge. So as long as you, so it's an auto 7 pretty much, but you can definitely get a 12. So their threat range is nuts. And then you've got lots of summoning and spellcasting. Bonjour. The Stark Pistol was running a Thunder Lizard list, as was Matthew Kessinger was running a Draco Tail list, but they all had, like, I think Stark had Croak and some Salamanders and some 30 Skinks, and I think Matthew had some Salamanders and a Slan and some other stuff, and they are wildly different. But at this stage, I've talked about Seraphon enough that if it's your first time, just go back and listen to any of my videos, and you've listened to me talk about them, which will be pretty much going forward what I'll say when I read a Seraphon list. But congratulations to both of you. I need you to understand that. I've been reading that list now for 3 years, so I don't really need to, or 2 years, read about it anymore. Okay, so then Daniel Cooper was running a kind of interesting Mankin and Nurgle list. It did have Pushkal Blight Lords, 3 units of 2. It also had Putrid Blight Kings, but it had a it had 2 Lord of Plagues, which is something we don't tend to see as often, which is really fun, and I really like that. Cameron Chen had a really fun Skaven list, something a little bit out of the ordinary. I really like it. A Master Molder, 2 Warlock Engineers, 6 Storm Fiends, 5 Scryer Acolytes, 6 Giant Rats, 3 Warp Lightning Cannons, loads of Rat Swarms, I think there were like 5 or 6, and then a Warp Grinder, which I liked a lot. Obviously, you can pop up the Storm Fiends, who are also in Bounty Hunters, important point to note. So you could pop up the Storm Fiends and do a bunch of shooting and then fighting. But it's the Warp Lightning Cannons that are going to punch a bunch of armor at the back of the board, which I think is fun, with the Rat Swarms doing the jobs that we normally see Clan Rats doing, which is like screening up, basically. But these do it better because they can block more of the board, which I really like. So I thought that was a super fun list as well. And then we got Matthew Davison with Soulblight Gravelords. I was running loads of Black Knights and Neferata. An incredibly cool list. Wasn't expecting to see that. Well done to Matthew Davison. Shout out to everyone at this event. Okay, right. The Age of Sigmar GT, the Sacramento Slam. John Gray was running a Seraphon list, which consisted of... one second. It was a coalesced army. He had in Thunder Lizard. He had Engine of the Gods, a Skink Priest, Doralia Van Denst, a Slan, Stegadon with Stink Chief, and a Saurus Ashloth Bannerbearer, Saurus Guard, Saurus Knights, and a Stegadon as battle line. Bastildon with Solar Engine for Shoot Twice, and the Purple Sun. Sheesh. Again, like great spell casting. Purple Sun, the ability to cast it very reliably is really good. Stegadon, they're all -1 to wound, with the exception of, like, yeah, I think they're all -1 to wound. Yeah, Saurus Guard, Saurus Knights. Not -1 to wound, -1 damage to a minimum of 1, sorry. That's what I mean, -1 damage. Stegadon with Stink Chief, great in a fight, really powerful. Slan's great at casting, Skink Priest for buffs, Engine of the Gods for summoning or doing mortal wounds. So that's how the army works. And then we had a really fun Daughters of Khaine list with the Hag Queen, Slaughter Queen, Malixia Iron Scale, Blown Up Medusa, and the High Gladiatrix. So the second time we have not seen Baratheon the Bowsnakes. 2 units of 5 Bloodstalkers, a unit of 10 Blood Sisters, 20 Sisters of Slaughter. So they're going to be getting that change their wound characteristic, 2 wound characteristic as well, from a 4+ to a 3+. 5 more Blood Sisters, and then the Avatar of Khaine, which we were just looking at over on Warhapedia. The best resource for Age of Sigmar and 40k. Shout out to Warhapedia. You can find all of the war scrolls and all of the factions and rules, and they're all keyword linked as well. Like, if you're not sure how a monster works, you just click monster and it opens up monster. It's an incredibly good free resource for tracking rules in all of the games. In my opinion, it's the best resource on the internet for any war game. Well, for at least Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, and 40k. And as you can see, the Avatar of Khaine is pretty fighty, as pointed out by Smorgan in the chat. AOS List Labs is a YouTube channel you can go check out if you want to. Here's some great Smorgan information. He's got 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 2, damage 3. But he's also got a 5-up ward save on a 4-up armor save with 9 wounds. So pretty fighty, and as has been pointed out in the chat, can hide behind obscuring terrain as well, which is quite nice as well. So potential damage of 12 attacks coming out of a 40 mil base that's very survivable. I love that a lot. Pretty fun. So that's everything from that event. Our next event we're looking at is a very small event, the Dice and Duck Decimation. And what was decimated was a 5-0. We didn't get the opportunity to get a 5-0 from this. But Tom Patton did get himself a 4-0 with this. Don't be scared by the list, by the way. This is a Gargant's list. And in it is definitely 2 Gatebreakers, a Kraken Eater, and an Incarnate. So 4 models having a great time going 4-0. So it might have been a 4-round event, or maybe it was a 5-round event. I'm not really sure. But either way, congratulations to Tom. And again, that really adds to the fact that we can see that the Gargant's doing really, really well at the moment, and will continue to do so, in my opinion. Okay, our other event for this week was in Germany. It was the 22nd Woofergotter. Nailed that. In Germany. So I think there's been 22 of these events before, which is amazing. So Woofergotter. And again, this wasn't on any digital platform, so I'll include like a Google link to a folder which will have these lists available. A special shout out to Enwold in the chat, who formatted them for me and sent them to me, which I really appreciated. So thanks very much. Our 5-0 list is Daniel Pommer. He was running Zytrek Lumineth Realm Lords. He had a Venari Lord Regent, a Hurricane Wind Mage, a Cenari Law Seeker, and then he had 3 lots of 10 Wardens, and then he had 2 units of 30 Sentinels. And then he had Chronomantic Cogs and Ravanax Gnashing Jaws. Okay, so there's some really fun stuff in there as well. The Chronomantic Cogs is great for reroll casts because it's reroll casts to all wizards, and that's great for Lambent Light being cast, as well as the Sentinels being able to cast to empower their weapons. So their mortals from 6s to hit go to 5s to hit, which is a spell that they cast themselves. So that's really, really good for them, and also true for the Wardens and their Sun Metal weapons as well. The Law Seeker's got Lambent Light, which is a spell which is reroll to hits against a unit, so you can fish for more mortal wounds. So there's some pretty great damage in there, and the Venari Lord Regent is in there as well, to also be able to potentially cast the mortal wounds. So you basically, anything you fight in this army should basically be doing mortal wounds to you on a 5+, which is really quite good. It's great. And then he's got Ravanax Gnashing Jaws, which is kind of like a hot pick endless spell. I think a lot of people really want to use it because it's got the potential to do a lot of mortal wounds, especially when you can unbind it and you've got the reliability to cast it. Kind of interesting in like a Magic Dom heavy meta. I personally not super sure about it because it's you're using a lot of resources to produce what is and can be a pretty good amount of mortal wounds. Ultimately, Daniel went 5-0 with this list, and so a special shout out to him. As we know already, we've already seen that the War Scroll has changed for the Sentinels. We've seen that on the new FOMO box that's being released, so and I'm sure that there's some reviews of those already available. So congratulations to him. Great list, which I think is the kind of swan song, I guess, or the last shot, you could say, because they fire loads of arrows. For this book, because soon it's all going to be changed. Jeffrey, lovely fella, is running Knights of the Empty Throne list, one of our 2 Knights of the Empty Throne lists that went 4-1 this weekend. He's running, now Knights of the Empty Throne is kind of interesting. It's a Slaves to Darkness army, but Varangard, which normally come in units of 3, which are a cavalry unit, can become heroes in this. Varangard are like heroes of chaos, effectively, that sit atop a big steed. And those heroes of chaos, when Archaons aren't around, are kind of like his second in command, his lieutenants. So they gain the hero keyword, and you can still reinforce them. So you can have a unit of 6, which is 560 points, but it's a lot of wounds, on a 3-up base armor save. And when they've got the Mark of Tzeentch, they're going to be re-rolling once to save. They also have got pile-in and attack twice, once per battle on their War Scroll, which is really, really good. Now, it also means you can give them items, which sounds crazy good, and it is. You've got Inescapable Doom, which is... it's either pile-in 6... I don't know which one's which, I forget. They're always taken the same. It's either pile-in 6 inches, and then he's got the Grasping Plate, which is you cannot make retreat moves away from it. So it's one of those two. Yes, they also ignore spells, 1 from the War Scroll and 2 from the Mark. That's correct. You do have double spell protection, of course, also from the Mark of Tzeentch. So yeah, the Grasping Plate. So effectively, this unit, they pile in 6 inches, which means you can run with them, and then you can pile in from outside of 6 inches. So they have a pretty big threat range, which is really good. Also means that your opponent can't like retreat away from you if you're using Skinks, because you're doing a pile in, which is after that would happen. Which is really good. He's also then got Be'lakor, which I think is really useful inside this meta for shutting down big units. If you flip this army around, and if you had Be'lakor on the other side, you would Be'lakor the Varangard unit, so that it potentially can't move because of the Dark Mastery ability. You'd make it so that it just shuts it down, which I think is quite good. I think Bellacor's really good in this meta at the moment. And then Chaos Sorcerer Lord for Oracular Visions, and also, have they still got Demonic Power as well? Nice. And that's bonded to the Krunspine Incarnate of Gur. Then he's got 3 units of Iron Golems. Iron Golems count as having not moved in your opponent's turn, obviously. You move in your turn. In your opponent's turn, then they go from a 4-up armor save to a 3-up armor save because they count as having not moved. Which means, with the Mark of Tzeentch, they've got a 3-up armor save, re-rolling ones, 10 wounds for 75 points. Very cheap, very survivable. And with the Mark of Tzeentch also have some spell protection as well. So, for 75 points, they're just an amazing screen or objective holder, which I think is very clever. He's then got 9 Untamed Beasts, which is a unit that can pre-game move. And don't forget, since the FAQ, where pre-game movements mean that you count as having kind of deployed on them, which mean you gain control of the objective. That came out in the most recent FAQ, which is really effective for units such as Untamed Beasts, Host Arcanum Tzeentch units, anything with that pre-game move. Actually, there's some really clever little mechanics and stuff you can do there, especially if you take a low drop, if you go for double battle regiment or just a single battle regiment like you've seen Jeffrey's done in this list. I think there's some really clever stuff you can do there as well. Then he's got the Chaos War Shrine for the rerolls to hit and wound on his big fighter units, and he's got the Krunspine Incarnate of Gur. Sexy guy, sexy list. So good. So that's 2 units in his... So it's kind of interesting. 2 units from his army that you can't retreat from. One of which, it's tough to kill because it's a Krunspine, and the other one that's tough to kill because it's got a 3-up armor save with Mystic Shield, a 2-up armor save with all-out defense, a 1-up armor save, re-rolling 1s. So what's that mean? You're gonna have to be Rend 2. Mystic Shield. You're gonna have to be Rend 1's gonna do nothing. Rend 2 to take it back to its 3-up re-rolling 1s. Oh, there we go. So Jeffrey pointed out, I played Lumineth in the final table, Realmstone Cache. I was able to grab the objective with the pre-game move before Lawseeker could grab it from Deep Strike, which is really clever. So just think on that. There's some really clever stuff with pre-game moves. Really clever stuff. Especially pre-game move, give your opponent the turn, and then choose a proving ground. Real clever stuff you could do. So love that. Fabian Koshmida was running a Daughters of Khaine list, and again, no Morathi, some bow snakes. Had Queen on Cauldron of Blood, and there's also a Blood Rat Shrine, so kind of 2 towers list, and a Melisite Iron Scale, which meant all of the snakes became battle line, which meant you got a unit of 10 Bloodstalkers, so those are our bow snakes, then 15 fighty snakes, 10 fighty snakes, then 10 witch elves. And again, those 2 units of Heartrenders and the Heart of Fury. Double battle regiment, and then bounty hunters on the 15 Blood Sisters, the 10 Blood Sisters. So it's like some very, very impactful fighting units there. Really clever stuff. Really like what's being done. Heart of Fury for the -1 damage. And again, more Daughters of Khaine without Morathi. You love to see it. You love to see it doing really well. Then Henning Wolf was running Slaves to Darkness, Knights of the Empty Throne list. He had Knights of the Empty Throne Varangard again, Inescapable Doom and Grasping Plate. But instead of Be'lakor, he had another unit of 6 Varangard. And this time they took the artifact, the Corrupted Nullstone, which is a once per game auto unbind, which is a great spell. Really, really good. Great artifact, Really good to shut down that key spell that you're fighting against. Kairos, if he doesn't get his portals, that's important. Mindrazor is something that's really important. The 5-up ward save being cast on a unit of like 30 Bladegeist Revenants is a really good spell. Shutting that down is really good. So there are some really key spells at some really key times where auto unbinds are amazing. So love that. Then you've got 2 Chaos Sorcerer Lords, and then you've got 4 units of 4 Iron Golems. So again, those Iron Golems like we talked about, 3-up armor save, rerolling 1s. The Mindstealer Phalanx, great one. My favourite painted one is a very colourful one done by Sughammer on Instagram. And this is a kind of beast, a monster. But what it does is it makes it so that a unit within, I can't remember the range, I think it might be 12 inches, but it basically makes you fight last. It's got a fight last attack, basically, or an ability, which is really good, obviously, because then you can have your multiple units of Varangar go in, and it's just really, really effective. And then he's got a Chaos War Shrine in there as well. So if you think about it, like, there's only real 2 punchy units. Those are the Knights of the Throne Varangard. So only 2 fighting units in there. And so, there's a lot of orientating the right matchups for himself, which is going to be a lot to do with the Mindstealer Phalanx. So yeah, great little list. Love that. And sounds like a really great event. The German meta is really good. They've got the Raccoon Rumble coming up at the end of October. Again, you're able to check this out if you look at the global... Oh, no, wrong one. No. Oh, we've gone everywhere now. If you look at the global events calendar, which I was just trying to show you a second ago. So included in the show notes for everyone at home, because it's the first time I've actually talked about it, is a global events calendar for Age of Sigmar, which I've just produced. So you can see here. So this is going to be included in the show notes, and this should slowly start to... I'm going to add all of the events around the world as they go up and when they're put in, so people can, either advertise their events, which I think would be a nice thing to do, so you know where events are going to be, or so you can just track them at home and maybe follow them online. So that's one of those things that there was a resource available, but it's kind of fallen by the wayside. When lots of people do stuff for a hobby, it goes away. That's why I do it for work, and you can support me on Patreon to help me continue to do these things. So this is another incredibly bland resource that's available from the Honest Wargamer, but it's useful. It is an important thing to do. So there we go. Okay, right. So on to the next set of events. Really good. Okay, so going over to the capital city Bloodbath. So this was 2 weeks ago, and this was in Canada. I was actually at this event, but I was covering the 40k tournament stuff as well. So you had Carl with his 5-0. So this is actually a 6-round event with 4 rounds on the Saturday. 4 rounds on the Saturday, 2 on the Sunday. Pretty brutal. So Carl won the event, went 5-0, but no one went 6-0. He lost his 3rd game. Very much like Michael lost his 4th game in that list. The Baal, that's correct. In fact, everyone apart from Olivier, we'll talk about his list as well, won all of his games up until his final game. So let's look through the list, because Carl actually did it with Flesh Eater Courts. Okay, so pretty exciting. His Court of Delusion is Feast Day, and he's got a Infernal Courtier with the Dark the Command Trait, the Dark Acolyte, and then he's got Deranged Transformation. He's got the King of the Krunspine, which is an Abhorrent Art Region, with a Dermal Robe and Spectral Host. So the Dermal Robe makes him a wizard, or adds +1 to his spells, one of the two. And they've got an Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist, which is, oh yeah, this is the illegal list. Oh yeah, of course. Gruesome Bite and Bloodfeast. It's not illegal. Carl ran it as a legal list, just FYI, but the TO said he couldn't change the actual upload. And so this list you might read actually isn't correct. He's got 2 lots of 10 Crypt Ghouls. And then the big piece here is his 9 Crypt Flayers. And then the Cronspine Incarnate of Gur and Chronomantic Cogs. So as the chat have been pointing out to me, there's 4 wounds each, taking it up to 36 wounds in the unit of Crypt Flayers. With a 5-up save, but because of multiple, because of Rally, which you can get from the White Dwarf update, which I think is a 5+, and also because of the Crypt Infernal Courtier, and also the White Dwarf update, unless you one-shot this unit, as pointed out in the chat, unless you kill the unit, you're able to bring it all back. And so it's like a really tough unit to deal with. And then apart from that, it's pretty much what you expect from a Flesh Eater Corpse army. You've got a Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist with Gruesome Bite, and so he's going to be doing some crazy good damage. The Cronspine Incarnate of Gur, so you can't run away from it. So again, this kind of army really lifted up from the fact that the Incarnate means that you have to dance around that first, and then all of these other more fragile but very hitty pieces are going to come in later, which is quite interesting. So some really interesting tech there. We pointed out that there's a run and charge spell, there's a +4 move spell, so you could be making them move 16 inches and then run and charge, so those Crypt Flayers could be going crazy fast. So yeah, and then the Chronomantic Cogs for the reroll casts. What a cool list. And again, Carl, this is his second 5-0. He went 5-0 with KO recently, so really dominating his local communities wherever he goes. And as always, to Carl, B's up, C's down. Okay, so then another 5-0, and this was run by Michael Simeon. Lovely fella, by the way. I got to meet him in person, just a treasure. He's running Icebone Bone Splitters, Savage Big Boss, Maniac Weird Knob, Wergog Prophet, 3 lots of 3 Savage Big Bosses, 4 lots of 5, Savage Ball Boys, 2 lots of 5 Savage Ball Boy Maniacs, a unit of 4 Big Stabbers, and then 6 units of 2 Big Stabbers. And he's got double Warlord, and then he's got Bounty Hunters, which is the Savage Ball Maniacs, and his 4 Savage Big Stabbers. So this is a lot of pre-game move and a lot of damage coming out from the Wergog Prophet when he goes off, as they say. So yeah, a really interesting list. Really like this. And congratulations to him. And there's a fun, again going 5-0, there's a fun Cities of Sigmar Hallowheart list. Knight Incanter, Battle Mage on Griffin, Celestial Hurricane with Celestial Battle Mage, a Free Guild General, and then on foot, who's the General with Master of Magic. And because it's Hallowheart, obviously you get to take D6 mortal wounds, get that to cast. You get +1 to cast from the Hurricaneum. So you're casting a lot of spells, and then you've got 2 units of 30 Free Guild Crossbowmen, Horrorghast, Purple Sun, Soulscream Bridge. So the Soulscream Bridge to, I would argue in some cases, move block. Such a good spell for move blocking. And then the Drokothian Guard Fulminators for doing loads of damage. They're still obviously really good in a fight. You just don't have the delivery system you once did in Living City. So yeah, great list. Love that. We had a unit of... we had an Ironeth Deepkin list run by Jordan. Our Hallowheart list was run by Olivier. So, well, shout out to him. Our Ironeth Deepkin was run by Jordan from Seasons of War, and he was running an Achillean King, so the Slap King, Lotan with that +1 to wound aura that's really good. Then 20 Reavers, 2 lots of 10 Reavers, and then 30 Thralls and the Cronspine Incarnate. So the Incarnate again pinning unit in, the Thrall shooting, the Namatis fighting in there as well, the Slap King doing loads of fighting, the Lotan with a really good aura. I think is really, really good. There's a Saurus list, Fangs of Sotek, so we've got loads of extra skinks, 2 lots of 30 skinks, so don't forget when you charge them, they get to Parting Shot, which is a kind of like a standard shoot ability, and then a 4+ run away, which is really strong. Then you've got the Skink Star Priest and Skink Priest buffing them with extra to move, 6s to wound, do mortal wounds, Ashloth Bannerbearer for the +1 to cast for the Slan, and then the Stegodon with Skink Chief giving +1 attack if he wants to 30 skinks. So I think that means that they have something like 90 attacks? I think they have 90 attacks in close combat, which is pretty crazy, especially with 6s to wound, do mortal wounds. But yeah, it's just so good. And 5 Chameleon Skinks for a cheeky drop down and start trying to snipe characters, do some fun stuff. And then Purple Sun, because they've got a deep strike mechanic, and then Purple Sun and Horrorghast. Horrorghast, great in this list, especially when you can split shots from the 30 skinks into multiple units. Horrorghast being cast by the enemy, I think, is a really good play, because then you can just really make units run away. I love that. I think that's actually a really clever play. You're seeing more and more Horrorghasts. Not a surprise. Really good. That's everything from Capital City Bloodbath. Okay, our next event is the Salt Lake Open. Okay, so this had some amount of people. I actually don't know. 34 players at this event. It was won by Fireslayer. So Fireslayer is the only list to go 5-0, which is pretty incredible. So well done to Dustin Chesma. And he was running Fireslayers and he was running Greyfjord. Now, if we take a look at the list, as you can see, it's just a cast of characters. A Runefather, a Battlesmith, Runeson, Flamekeeper, Runemaster, and a Runesmiter. Then 2 units of 10 Hearthguard Berserkers, and then 2 units of Volkite Berserkers, one with Bladed Sling Shields and the other with Firesteel Hand Axes, and then also a unit of Auric Hearthguard. So not having any of those Magma Dross, which we've seen do quite well, has meant he's put a lot of bodies on the board there. And then he's got the Command Entourage, an Expert Conquerors, Warlord and Bounty Hunters battalion, so he's got all of it. His Bounty Hunters are his Hearthguard Berserkers, and then all of his units are going to count as Expert Conquerors. So some real clever little play there to really maximise what this army can do. So those 2 units of 10 are going to count as 30 on objectives, and his other 2 units of 10 are going to get that +1 damage if they fight Galician veterans, which is really fun. A big shout out to him. That's a really impressive performance for Fireslayers who haven't been doing super well, so he should be really chuffed with that. Then we've got a really interesting Stormcast list being played by No Aquino. Stormcast Eternals, Celestial Warbringers. Now this is kicked off a really lively and fun debate in the chat, and we'll talk about it. So he was running Celestial Warbringers, and he's got a Lord Relictor with a Master of Magic and the Arcane Tome. So he's got the obviously the translocation ability there, but he's also a wizard. Then he has 5 Knight Velexers, and we took the time to look at the Knight Velexer War Scroll, and as you can see, he's got this thing, the Meteoric Standard. If this unit carries a Meteoric Standard once per battle in your hero phase, you can pick a point on the battlefield within 24 inches. Each enemy unit within 6 suffers D3 mortal wounds, and he does that 5 times. So that means each unit within a single point can take 5d3 mortal wounds, which is pretty incredible ultimately. So on average, there should be 10 mortal wounds to every unit within 6 inches. It's pretty amazing. He then, in addition, like, I love that list. I think that's really fun. In addition, has 3 units of 5 Judicators, which obviously do mortal wounds when they shoot. He's got the Everplaced Comet, which is cast within 36 inches, big range. Cast that, and then you roll a dice for each unit within, I think it's 10 inches. Let me just double check. We did do this. Within 10 inches, and on a 1 nothing happens, but on a 2 to 5 it's D3 mortal wounds, and on a 6 it's D6 mortal wounds. So really now we're up to kind of like every unit within 6 inches is taking 6d3 mortal wounds, or they're taking 5d3 plus d6 mortal wounds, which is again amazing. And then just to cap it off, which is really fun, I really like this. He's got 2 units of 3 Annihilators, which obviously drop down, and then they do mortal wounds, and they charge in, and they do mortal wounds. And then the Stormstrike Chariot, that when it charges, does mortal wounds. Yeah? Just amazing stuff, right? Like, really fun. And he's got that all in 2 battle regiments, so it's a 2-drop, so he's probably going to get the choice to go first when an army is really castled up in itself, and then he can do all that multiple damage. And we know that having a 2-drop gives you like a 69% chance of getting the choice to go first. Hashtag 69. Russ Tanner did really well with Ogre Moor Tribes getting a 4-1. That's actually really impressive. He didn't have anything overly different in the big power pieces. He's got Huskarl and Thundertusk, which is general. Then, of course, a Frostlord and Stonehorn. Then he had Hrockthorn and his Mantrappers. He's got a Butcher, a Slaughtermaster, and another Frostlord and Stonehorn. But his battle line being 3 units of Icefall Yetis is quite fun, especially with that pile-in that they've got of 6 inches. I really like that. And they're also the battle line. That gives him a way of taking some pretty cheap and also effective battle line, and it's probably giving him enough points to just take that extra Frostlord on Stonehorn, which I think is really clever, and he should be super proud of himself. So 4-1, really understanding how to build a list that's got more power pieces in it than maybe a traditional list. We had a Sons of Behemat list go 4-1 as well. Gatebreaker, another Gatebreaker, another Gatebreaker, and a Kronspine Incarnate. And if you've been keeping track today over the course of the past few weeks, Kronspine Incarnate and Gatebreakers, all Gatebreakers and Man Crushers, Doing really well. Doing really well. 3 bigs, 1 Cron-Spine Incarnate. Absolutely fantastic stuff. They count on more on objectives. They're really fighty. Just don't know what other people do and move off the objectives. Just stand on the objectives and fight people, and then you win the game. Really easy. And then copying Carl, or this was actually the same week as Carl the Baal, did really well. Abhorrent Arc Regent, Flesh Eater Corpse went 4-1, and again they've got that unit of 9 Crypt Flayers, so an Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist, an Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Zombie Dragon, an Abhorrent Arc Regent, and then those 9 Crypt Flayers. So slightly different list to the one that we saw previously, but those 9 Crypt Flayers coming in pretty key again. Amazing set of lists, really, really creative, and that's everything that happened at Salt Lake Open. So congratulations to everyone there. Our next event takes us to the wonderful world or fake land of Australia, depending. It either had 62 players or 62 crisis actors. Really depends on how you feel about the Earth's shape. But it was organised by Mr. Sam Morgan, and it was the Snake Eyes Grand Tournament. Now, the event, if it was run by Sam, it would have been a really fun event, I assume, right? So shout out to him. Our 2 5-0s, though, are 2 pretty famous players. We've got Alexander Kron, the robot return, Terminator 2, the Kron is back with his carriage on Overlords, and then Lackey. Now, some people might not know Lackey, but old Warhammer Fantasy Battle players will remember Lackey from a little podcast called The Dwellers Below. And Lackey was one of the key members of the Dwellers Below. A little treasure. Now, he hasn't played Age of Sigmar for 3 years, as being pointed out by the chat. His first event back, he's only gone and bloody won it. He's only gone and bloody won it. With his Seraphon, Fangs of Sotek. How did he do it? That's the question. So Fangs of Sotek, don't forget, skinks get extra move. They get a retreat and shoot ability. He's got a Slan with Arcane Might. Which is reroll casts, or 1 cast, or whatever. Skink Star Priest, and then an Engine of the Gods, which, as we know, has got the this one's got the Arcane Tome, which is pretty fun. And he's also got the Prayer Scripture Curse. So that makes that Engine of the Gods a monster, a totem, a priest, a wizard, able to summon units or shoot mortal wounds across the board, and it's 265 points. Then he's got a unit of 30 skinks, 2 units of 2 skinks, a unit of salamanders, and the Cron-Spine Incarnate, Ravanax Gnashing Jaws, and then the Purple Sun. So, obviously kill stuff with the Ravanax Gnashing Jaws, with the Purple Sun. Ravanax Gnashing Jaws doing all the mortal wounds at range, Salamander's doing mortal wounds and damage, as you saw. If you go and watch the very first tabletop in 10 minutes, available on the Honest Wargamer, you can see how very effective Salamanders can be in-game. 2 units of 10 skinks, 30 skinks. Obviously, those 30 skinks can get mortals on 6s to wound. Just how did he do it is the question. Hoping he'll come on the show. Lackey, if you're listening, come on the show and let us know how you did it, because fantastic work. Really proud of you. Now, the Kronster, the Cron-Spine Incarnate himself, Alexander Cronington, was running a KO Barrack Zilfin. Aethercast boys, don't come at me. Okay, screw you guys. A Zilfin list. He had an Aether Chemist and another Aether Chemist. Thank you to Rockall for subscribing. That's super great of you. Rockhal, what's going on? Thanks, first time subscriber. What did it for you? Was it the face? Was it the list? Was it the chat? Who knows? But if you do want to subscribe, you on Twitch, on Patreon, that would be greatly appreciated. So he's got 2 Aether Chemists, and then he's got the Arcanaut Admiral, 3 lots of 10 Arcanaut Company. Basically, if you're playing Carriage on Overlords, you just take 3 lots of 10 dudes who do nothing. I mean, they do something, but you're basically like, I hope my boys don't die. Then a Gunstock Gunhauler, 6 Skywardens, which is quite interesting. That's quite different to what we normally see. Here's the Enigmatic Energy. Is it? And then 2 Ironclads. Okay, and then he's got the Warp Lightning Vortex. So he's got some fun little interactions here, specifically from the Aether Chemists and the Warp Lightning Vortex. So already you're not going to be able to like move very far out of your deployment, especially if you fly. The Ironclads are going to do lots of shooting. Surprised not to see the Purple Sun in replace of the Vortex, because obviously you add +1 to all of your gun shooting, which seems to be a very KO thing to do at the minute. So yeah, just a really, really interesting kind of like mix up. The Sky Wardens being quite different as well is pretty key. But this is this is Kron's list. This is Kron loves playing Kharadron Overlord, so it's nice to see him back on the table using it. Okay, so looking at the 4-1 bracket, you've got some pretty well-known people like Pete Axton, who runs Plastic Crack blog, if you want to go check it out. Pat Nevin, who we hear about a lot. Wayne Buck. So like just loads of people who we know, and the lists are great. Shout out to the Big Goldfish for resubscribing. The lists are great, really different, and really kicked off a big conversation with the chat. Okay, so Pat was running a Nurgle list. He was running Drowned Men, and he had Blobe, Orgots, and the Lord of Afflictions. Then 4 Puskil Blight Lords, 2 Puskil Blight Lords, and 10 Plague Bearers, which were in Expert Conquerors. And then a unit of 10 Gore, which were also in Expert Conquerors, 3 Nurglings, and then 3 Plague Drones. So we do see the Puskil Blight Lords a lot, but you don't tend to see and the Lord of Afflictions, and you see all of those pretty commonly together. But he's added some other little extra bits. Orgots and Blobe, you see a lot with that kind of list as well. But the Nurglings, definitely, and the Plague Drones and the Gore make that a little bit different. So congratulations to him. The Sylvaneth list was pretty nice. This was being run by Mark Nodge. It's Gnarlroot, and he's running No Place for the Weak. He's running The Dwindling. So he's got a Branch Witch, a Warsong Revenant, who's got Spellsinger, so cast through trees, Acorn to set up a new forest, and then the Tree Song for the +1 Rend aura. Then he's got the Spirit of Durthu with the Greenwood Gladius for an extra D3 attacks, Battle Mage for the Battle Mage for obviously the additional run. The important bit there is he's written down Universal Spell or Levitate, and your allied casters can't take a spell. So I'm sure he wasn't doing that anyway. I'm sure he was just doing the additional move and charge from the Battle Mage, or extra charge from the Battle Mage, whatever the spell is. 2 lots of 10 Dryads and 5 Tree Revenants. Then he's got 6 Kurnoth Hunters with Kurnoth Scythes, 3 Revenant Seekers. They obviously can return any of those Kurnoth units that get killed. Or not the whole unit, sorry, models from the unit, which is quite nice. And then the Spite Swarm Hive, which is +3 move, +3 charge. So he's basically going to be yeeting in either the Kurnoth Hunters or the Durthu through the trees, and then he's going to be attacking and then yeeting one of them back using Fight and Fade. And then he's going to have all the additional charges as well because of the Battle Mage and because of the Spite Swarm Hive. So he's going to be like basically just firing and fading, fighting and fading, and teleporting away. While he keeps doing spells with the Warsong Revenant through the tree. Then there was there was a Skaven list being run by Wayne Buck, which is a Vermin Lord with the Devious Adversary and then the Warpstone Charm and with Flaming Weapon. So this is the kind of like Skit Leaped in by Thankwall, who's got Skit Leap in. Skit Leap in, a big fighting model, attack, and then, do all the extra damage. Then he's got Thankwall, obviously, also for the pluses to cast and also for his ability to do loads of damage in combat. 2 Plague Priests and then the Warlock Engineer. And then he's got 20 Clan Rats, another 20 Clan Rats, 10 Plague Censer Bearers, and another 10 Plague Censer Bearers, which have got crazy output. 2 Warp Lightning Cannons for just punching mortal wounds at range, which is really good. And then the Burning Head in a double battle regiment. So, again, Skaven going 4-1 is pretty impressive. You should be pretty happy with that. Sam Sims Bailey was running a Sylvaneth list in Dreadwood with Drycha, a Warsong Revenant, an Arch Revenant, and a Battle Mage, and then 15 Spite Revenants, 2 lots of 5 Spite Revenants, and then 6 Kurnoth Hunters with bows, Chronomantic Cog, Spite Swarm Hive, and Purple Son of Sheesh. So again, the Warsong Revenant is going to be able to cast those spells through the trees at range because of Spellsinger. The Spite Revenants, because they're in Dreadwood, are going to be able to teleport in and teleport away, which I think is quite nice. And Drycha can also teleport in with them and then give the +1 to wound aura, which means the 45 attacks that we see coming out of the 15 Spite Revenants are going to be hitting on 2s because of all that attack, plus wounding on 2s because of Drycha. So that's 2s and 2s, and any 6s to hit are going to do mortal wounds. And because it's Dreadwood, both can teleport away, which I think is super, super powerful. Really good. Just strong stuff, right? Strong stuff. Chronomantic Cogs reroll casts, Spite Swarm Hive for the pluses to charge, and then Purple Sun for the additional rend as well. And when you do the additional rend with Tree Song, Tree Song and additional rend, so you can have about to rend 3? Rend 2, rend 3? It's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. But again, Sylvaneth have got some really interesting stuff, but they haven't been dominating the game. Pete Atkinson from Plastic Crack was taking Drakfoot, Wargog Prophet, so this is Bone Splitters, Wargog Prophet, Wardock, 3 lots of 10 Savage Orc Maulboys, loads of Big Stabbers, 5 Savage Boy Maniacs, and Cronspine Incarnate, and Ravanax Gnashing Jaws. So pretty much what we said before, pre-game moves, get the units in. Wargogs potentially are going to take units off the board with the Wargog Stare. Big Stabbers doing Big Stabber damage, and then Savage Ball Maniacs doing Savage Ball Maniac stuff. There you go. Then we get into a cool Soulblight Gravelords list with a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon. Now, this is Legion of Blood. I love this because it's Legion of Blood, which an additional D3 models run away, -1 bravery as well in this army when you're near vampires, and he's got 2 units of Blood Knights. He's got Death Route Skeletons, which also reduce your bravery as well. He's got a unit of 10 Direwolves. Big Fort Drog Kicker, which I think has a -1 bravery aura as well. Belladama, who's got that great spell to do at range and also can pass off any wounds onto the Direwolves. A Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon for all of the additional damage that you need. A big fighty monster, basically. But then he's got Horrorghast. So we talked about this in a kind of deep dive the other day. But the Horrorghast in conjunction with Legion of Blood is actually a really exciting list. Super fun. Really fun to play, I imagine. I love that list. I think that's actually really, really cool. So love that. So shout out there. Then Chris Zagarellos. By the way, Chris CB is telling us that the Soulblight Gravelords list that went 4-1 also won Best Painted. That's pretty impressive. Well done, William Knight. You should be super proud of yourself. Chris Zagarellos was running a Petrifex Elite OCR Bone Reapers list going 4-1. And it's got a Soul Mason, and then it's got Catacross. And then the fun thing about this is it's got 2 units of 4 and then a unit of 2 of Morghast Harbingers, which were in Bounty Hunters. I'm pretty certain, yeah, they're all in Bounty Hunters, which is great. Yeah, they're pretty fighty units, but they've got 3 attacks each, which do damage 3. As it was pointed out in the chat earlier, I think you can get them to 2s and 2s with their 3 attacks each. So unit 4 is going to have 12 attacks, 2s and 2s, rend 3, damage 3. Into Galician Veterans, they're going to be damage 4. So they're just mini monsters in of themselves. They're 6 wounds apiece with a 4-up armor save. They get an additional range on their charge. Just an incredibly wicked list. Lenny Bell was running a Befallen House, a Magic Kingdom Nurgle list. He's got a Great and Clean one, Horticulate Slimux, and Orgott's Demon Spew. And then he's got 6 Beasts of Nurgle, and then 3 Nurglings, and the Geminids. Talked about this before, but the Horticulux gives reroll charges and +1 to hit to the Beast of Nurgle, who retreat and charge. When they charge in, they do mortal wounds. When they retreat away, they do mortal wounds. When they've got loads of attacks, so they apply loads of disease points, which does additional mortal wounds. So, like, there's a really fun list that we saw at the beginning of this Nurgle book, run by Slot Machine Killer. Does the same thing. Great and Clean one, incredibly hard to kill. He's got the Wither Stave, which adds +1 to the disease points. So only 4-ups become a 3-up, I think. Which is really good, which can go down to a 2-up, I think, with the wheel, when the wheel's in the right place. And he's a pretty fighty monster in of himself with the flaming weapons. Now, the real fun little bit here is the allied in Infernal Rapture. So 135 points. All wizards within 24 inches have to re-roll successful casts. Actually, really wicked tech. Really wicked tech in a very dominant magic meta. Really like that. Like, a lot. Really like that a lot. I thought that was really clever. Dylan Close, with his Invaders Lurid Haze list, was running Glutos or Scullion, Sigvald, Sinessa, 3 lots of 11, technically, Blissbarb Archers, and then 3 Exalted Chariots, and then Geminids and the Burning Head. Now, Geminids obviously super clever to just run through your army because you're going to take 1 mortal wound on each unit on a 2-up, which generates you tons of depravity points. Blissbarb Archer is going to do 20 shots each, so he's got 60 shots coming out of this army. Exalted Chariot is going to do loads of mortal wounds on the charge. And then Glutox is good for healing, fighting, and casting spells. And then Sigvald. Like, just a great, fun little list. Really taking advantage of some of kind of the techie plays you can do with the Geminids and with the summoning. You should be able to get some really powerful summoning going with this army, and you get to keep your opponent off with those Blissbarb Archers. No screens, so a little bit concerned with how it did there, but obviously it can also deep strike with Sigvald or Glutos or any of those things and get into your opponent's face. And then that's it. That's everything. I gotta say, so this event, the Snake Eyes GT, I gotta say, like some of the most exciting lists that I've read out through the course of the day, like definitely some really wild and wacky stuff. Which is it's nice to see Australia back on the map doing what it does best, like just really reinventing the wheel time and time again. I love it. I'm super happy for them. So shout out to them. Okay. So at an event at Element Games, which was a 74-player event, we had two people go 5-0. Byron Ord went 5-0, and he's the guy who owns Element Games and runs Element Games. He won his own event. Yeah, he won it. Anyway, and then also Toby Meadows went 5-0. Now Byron's been super nice to me. He sent me a load of brushes once, so shout out to him. He also loves dry brushing more than anyone in the world, than anyone in the whole world, and that's true. Yeah. Collusion. So there's no collusion. Don't hashtag collusion. Right, anyway, so let's look at Byron's list. So Byron was running two more crushers, two mega bosses on more crushers, so an Iron Jaws, and he was also running a Rogue Idol. This is all in Iron Jaws. Doesn't say. Does it say what his sub-faction was? I'm pretty certain it's going to be Iron Suns, which means you get to charge in your opponent's charge phase, or at the end of your opponent's charge phase, which is actually an incredibly powerful thing to do. So you've got two War Chanters as well, obviously, so he will have buffed up probably the Rogue Idol, probably also buffed up the one of the War Chanters. I'm trying to see what stuff he got on, and one of them is the Arcane Tome, and he does have Basham Lads, and he's got Master of the Weird, so he's going to do D3 Mortal Wounds, probably to one of his 3 units of Ard Boys. So 3 units of Ard, so D3 Mortal Wounds, that to cast, +1 to Wound Aura, yeets everything forward, gives +1 to hit to the two Mega Bosses on Maw Crusher and the Rogue Idol. That means they've all got +1 to hit, +1 to wound, which means the entire front line is hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, with +1 damage, and then smashing and bashing. So as soon as you've wiped a unit out with one, you get to activate with another unit, and then in your opponent's turn, if they don't charge you, you charge them, and you do the same thing, right? Oh my god. And it's just a great list. The other 5-0 at this event, seamless transition, no one knew there was a break there, where I got pizza but had no cheese on. But that was fine, because it was a gift, and I appreciated it a lot. Toby Meadows, the Toby, hashtag slow-mo Tobes. Great little player. He's short. That's what I didn't mean by slow, but short people are kings. Short king. Now I've dug a hole. I might have to record this bit. He's a really nice person and a great guy. And I feel like I've really fucked this entire intro up a lot, actually. Toby's great. Anyway, to Toby. Okay? And he was running a safe starters list, which is very similar to Enwold's list. However, Enwold that we saw run this list this week, this was a list from the week before. So this is a series of events before. So just to give Toby his due. So he was running Knights of the Empty Throne, and then Varangard, he had a unit of 6, and another Varangard, he had a unit of 6, and same items, Inescapable Doom and Grasping Plate, so piling from 6 inches, and also Can't Retreat, and then Null Stone, which is obviously an auto unbind, right? Chaos Sorcerer Lord in his list as well. Then he had those 4 units of Iron Golems, and the Mindstealer's Phalanx. Again, still to quote, best Mindstealer's Phalanx painting I've seen is the Louis Sugden. But other than that, like a great miniature in of itself, but you should stick some wings on it, makes it look cooler. And then, because like it's a Sphinx. Sphinx have wings, I'm pretty certain. But anyway, then you got a Chaos War Shrine in the list as well, Battle Regiment. So shout out to both Byron with his kind of like really powerful smashy fighty list, and Toby with again a very fighty list but a lot more techy, a lot more pieces to happen inside his list. Congratulations, dear. Okay, so looking at the 4-1s, Max was running a Maggotkin Drowned Men list. He had a Lord of Afflictions, August Demon Speed, Morbits, Twice-Born, and Blow-Brot-Spawn. He's got all of them. All of the Maggoth Lords, plus the Lord of Afflictions with Overpower Extension, Splithorn Helm, as we often see. Then another Lord of Afflictions. 3 units of 2 Puskal Blight Lords in his list as well. So all in Drowned Men, moving forward, and a bunch of characters to hold objectives and be really strong. Cool little list. Phil Marshall. Now, Phil might have more Age of Sigmar games under his belt than any other player, maybe other than Tom Guan, but definitely giving ourselves a race for the title. He's running Nighthaunt and he's running Scarlet Doom. He's got Alrak the Drowner, Guardian Souls, 2 Spirit Torments, Krulgas Cruciator, twice, 2 of them. So he's going to be able to reduce damage by 1 to a minimum of 1, but do it twice. So if you're damage 3, you're now damage 1. Okay, which is quite useful for Nighthaunt because they're mainly Galician veterans. He's got a unit of 30 Blaze Guard Revenants and another unit of 20 Blaze Guard Revenants, all in the Bounty Hunter Battalion, which is going to make them even more powerful. But that's a 525-point unit. Don't forget, of course, you can give them a 5-up ward save, and with Alrak, you can teleport them around the board. It's going to be a little tough to do, though, because obviously you've got that Krulgas Cruciator debuff. So maybe you're going to be like... maybe he's going to like keep the 30 and kind of a buff in the middle and then teleport with the unit of Blade Geist Revenants. Who knows? He's also got that clutch unit of Mimron Banshees. So they've only got 4 wounds in that 104-point unit, 105-point unit, sorry. But they make it so that it's great anti-magic. So Nighthorn units only within 12 inches. Basically, you can roll additional dice versus the casting value of your opponent's spell. So that you can just like do double unbind, you can stop endless spells, and a bunch of really clever stuff. Really stuff. It's also stupid you can stack the Cruciator buffs in a single unit. It's true. Okay. So again, shout out to Phil. I'm not surprised that he's been doing so well with that list. He's been getting the reps in, and it's a solid list. Mr. Simon Weekly from Team Wales has been running Nighthorn, double Krulgas Cruciator, a Dreadblade Harrow, 2 of them, 3 Spirit Hosts, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Hex Wraiths. And some of them are in the Bounty Hunters Battalion, and some of them are in the Battle Regiment in his army. Hex Wraiths got some pretty prodigious output when they finally get into combat, and so especially with, some pretty prodigious combat. So I think that's what you're seeing there, and they're also pretty tough to kill because they've got those 4-up ward saves. And again, a pretty unique list, which has been fun to play, and Simon never scared about rolling loads of dice. Maxall with a beautiful Slaves to Darkness list. I'll say it now and I'll say it 1,000 times. A beautiful Slaves to Darkness list was running Slaves to Darkness, Host of the Ever-Chosen, 6 Circle. He had Archeon, which is a really pretty model of his. A Chaos Sorcerer Lord, so 2 of those. Also, had the Master of Magic, and then he had some Varangard. And I think he had 2 units of 3 Varangard. And then he also had some Untamed Beasts, some Iron Golem. He's got 2 units of Untamed Beasts for those pre-game moves. He's got Chronomantic Cogs and the Purple Sun of Sheath. That Purple Sun is going to work really well with the Varangard, who get +1 damage on the charge in Host of the Ever-Chosen 6 Circles. So then if there's a Purple Sun nearby, it's another +1 rend. Like, just really good stuff. Really good stuff, super strong. And then Paul Scott, Slot Machine Killer, running his Nurgle, Great Unclean One, 2 Lord of Afflictions, and then a Horticulix Limux, then a unit of 2 Beasts of Nurgle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Beasts of Nurgle, and a unit of Fleshhounds, 105 points, and then 10 Chaos Warhounds. Interesting. In Bounty Hunters, and then a Battle Regiment. So his Bounty Hunter units were 2 units of... were the Chaos Warhounds and the Beasts of Nurgle. I assume the Warhounds meant as a screen to stop the Beasts of Nurgle from necessarily getting hit in the first turn, which I think is really fun. Kieran Alinda was running an Nightnet Deepkin list with a Celestin Prime, the Slap King, 1, 2, 3 lots of 10 Namati. No, 2 lots of 10 Namati Reavers, a unit of Namati Thralls, and 20 Namati Reavers. And an Alapex. But honestly, I can't read the list, so there's something else in there. So well done to him for going 4-1 with Zydnet Deepkin. Lewis Meadows was running a Fire Slayers list, which is fun. So he was running an Auric Runefather on Magmadroth, and he's got the Axe of Grimnar and Coldheart Ancient. So this is like a really fighty mounted character, the Auric Runefather on Magmadroth, a Battlesmith and a Runemaster. Then 1, 2, 3 Auric Runesworns on Magmadroth. We saw Alex running this early in this edition here at the TSN Arena, and then 10 Volkite Berserkers, early for this book. 10 Volkite Berserkers, another 10 Volkite Berserkers, and then 10 Free Guild Guard. Well, so there's Auric Runesworns on Magmadroth being in Bounty Hunters. They're super fighty, so they're going to be even more fighty in Bounty Hunters, of course. Stephen follows with his Zilfin Kharadron Overlords list. You've got an Aether Chemist, a Navigator, an Admiral, another Admiral, and then 3 lots of 10 Archanaut Company, and then 10 Thunderers, and then 2 Ironclads, and then he's got the Rune of Petrification in his list as well. So it's going to be pre-game move one of the boats in, drop the Rune of Petrification down, move away, shoot all of your dudes down, and then control your opponent's ability to move with the Navigator. and do some fighting with the Admiral as well. Duncan Woods, oh my god, literally no one can submit lists at this event. What the fuck? He's running a Skaven list. Congratulations to you to going 4-1. And then Tom Bell, congratulations to you for going 4-1 with your Flesh Eater Courts, which also I can't read my lists. But congratulations to... Oh, and then Trev! The Trev! Went 4-1 with a Mega Awesome War Crusher, 2 War Chanters and Weird Knob Shaman, 2 lots of 6 Gore Grunters, 10 Brutes, 2 lots of 5 Arboys, and then this was all in Iron Suns, so charging your opponent's charge phase, doing all the damage as it normally does. Okay, let's go. Okay, so our final event of the day, or of the past 2 weeks, is from Northern Ireland. Absolutely great to see the Irish boys, whichever from the north or the south, are playing Warhammer, because they're the best dudes. Big fans of all of them. And so it's great to see them having more tournaments or just having some on. So, in first place at this event, so this is a Northern Ireland GT. I think this is organised by Salt Miner War Games. I'm pretty certain. If I'm wrong, I apologise, but I'm pretty certain it was. So this was Mick Wendell won this event. So shout out to Mick. So he was the captain of the Republic of Ireland team at Worlds last year. Northern Irish team didn't go. And he was running Daughters of Khaine. He was running Marathian the Bowsnakes, which is good because I was really sad I wasn't going to get to see Marathian Bowsnakes today. But we got him, boys. We got him. Marathian the Bowsnakes in the house with an Incarnate. Shout out to you, Mick. 7-drop list. Absolutely nailed it. Love every part of that. That's fantastic. Now, Colin, a man who has hospitalised me and saved my life at different times, the Sport Cochrane, with his Stormcast Eternals list, was running Hammers of Sigmar. He had Lord Castellan, which he'd given Master of Magic and the Arcane Tome. Then he'd given the Lord Relictor, a Rune Lord, which he brought in, which I think is really nice. 5 Liberators, 5 Judicators with Boltstorm Crossbows, quite a lot of shots from that. 3 Aether Wings, and then 10 Protectors. Then a Stormstrike Chariot, and then 3 Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows. So he's still getting the same output, but he's not going to be able to use the Holy Command Thunderbolt Volley. So instead, he's gone for Call for Aid and Unleash Thy Hatred, which I think is quite clever, playing in with how he's built his lists. It's fun giving the Castellan the Arcane Tome and Master of Magic as well. So basically, the Protectors are going to hold the middle of the board pretty well, like we saw done at Summer Slaughter, where Sean was doing the same thing with his 10 Protectors, even against something as fighty as Fire Slayers, because you obviously give them +1 save, you give them a Mystic Shield, you give them all-out defense, so they can be on like a 0-up save, I think, pretty much. Which means your Stormstrike Chariot can come in and do all of its damage and charge in and do all the work there. And it does also mean that long strikes keep shooting from the back of the board. Still pretty light when you think about it when it comes to board control and units. Only 109 wounds in the army, but they're all quality wounds. And again, he went 4-1, so big shout out to him. I think Solomon, King Solomon, my man, the king, he has returned, was running an Emerald Host Nighthaunt list. He's got Lady Alinda, Guardian of Souls, a Krulgas Cruciator for that -1 damage, 20 Grimgas Reapers, 2x5 Hex Wraiths, 5 Spirit Hosts, and a Mimron Banshees. Then the Kronspine Incarnate of Gert. So the Incarnate does what I've said all through the show. The Spirit Hosts are going to bodyguard Alinda specifically, because then she's going to be able to return D6 to each unit once per battle at some point in the game, which is quite nice in those Hex Wraiths, because they're probably going to be used as screens or even as kind of frontline fighting units. And then the Grimgas Reapers are kind of going to be the power punch unit that's going to fight in the army. And it's a battle reg, so he's going to get the choice to go first most of the time, 87% of the time. Brendan McKenna Sr. was running Stormcast Eternals. He had a Knight Incantor, a Lord Relictor. He had 4 Dracothian Guard Concussors, 10 Judicators with Skybolt Bows, 5 Liberators, and then 10 Protectors. So very much what I said before, with the 10 Protectors kind of holding the middle. This time he's got the Concussors to do some pretty good kind of counter punch, which we saw used by different units by Colin. And then he's also got slightly different ranged options with his 10 Judicators with Skybolt Bows versus the long strikes, which we didn't previously see in that list. So that's really fun to see. And then finally, Fire Slayers being run by Sean Murray, going 4-1. So shout out to him. Auric Runefather on Magmadroth, an Auric Runemaster, a Battlesmith, and a Runeson on Magmadroth. Then 10 Hearthguard Berserkers and 2 units of 10 Volkite Berserkers in his list as well. Is that everything? Wow. Yeah, and again, he's gone for the really fighty Auric Runefather on Magmadroth. Anyway, if you get the opportunity to go over to Northern Ireland and play Warhammer, I would really take the opportunity to do it. Okay, taking a look at the calendar. So we're going to try and start doing this at the end of each show. I know it's not. I know it's like not big and all these other silly things like. Oh, like maybe I won't use it. But coming up this weekend, we've got the Midlands Clash in the USA, the Nova Open, the Rum and Rumble, which is being held in my arena here, and also War in the North. Now, there might be some more events, and if you are going to be running some events in the future and you would like to get them on this calendar, there's a link in the show notes, and there's also a way to contact us so we can try and put you on the calendar as well. The week after that, there's the Brathurst GT in Australia. There's an event in Spain, the Cruciato Nacional. Freak Wars. There's Lamoine Last Stand in the USA, Renegade Wargaming in the USA, and also Smite Club Open in the USA as well. So loads of events over there. Really exciting weekend on the 17th and 18th. You've got Game Night AOS GT in the USA, as well as Hammerfest. Then you've got Invasion in Norway. You've got Northern Wastes in Canada, and you've got Raccoon Room Rumble in Germany, and then the Small Ruckus GT here in the UK at my venue itself. So yeah, load of cool events coming up in the future. Looking at the event results, pretty interesting. Really fun seeing Australia back on the map. The lists are very dynamic, very different to what I've seen in lots of other places. They've really kind of exploded out. Not even like where I look at this and I think, how the hell did that do well? Just like, interesting. I like that a lot. I think that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, that's been. I enjoyed that. I think that was one of my my favourite bits from the week. Crunchbine Incarnates everywhere, very good, very effective. Sylvaneth and Nighthaunt, interesting to see, not necessarily in the top spots. And rarely seen actually, which is actually kind of cool. KO right up there all the time now. Kind of enjoy seeing that. That's really fun. But again, just super diverse list. Really nice to see all of the different Daughters of Khaine lists that are out there now, which are different to what they were previously. Like it's not Marathi and Bowsnakes, a variety of different builds, which is also really fun to see. As for the meta going forward, well, we're about to get into Gargants and Ogres, is the rumour? I don't really know. Skaven are doing okay. Skaven have posted a couple of results over the past couple of weeks that have been 4-1s. So it's been fun to see that. They haven't been doing crazy well, I'd say. And I oddly and unfortunately expect that to fall off. I don't want to end on a downer. I expect that to fall off. Gargants on the rise. That's definitely true with a new book on the way. That's quite interesting. Gargants on the rise. And that's it. That's it's been a really interesting kind of couple of. There's just so many weirdly cool lists. The Stormcast Valexa list was really fun. Like just really interesting stuff. I love the OC list again with the Harbingers. Like just really cool stuff. Like really fun stuff to see. So it's good to be back. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Don't forget I'm live every Monday, 11 till whatever time I finish doing these. So check it out, and I hope you enjoy it. There'll also be some live streaming of events on the T Sports Network sometime soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But if you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. Thank you to everyone who listens to this as a podcast. Please stay hydrated. And if you'd like to support us, you can support us on Patreon or Twitch or any of those other things, right? That would be the best bit. So thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.